Oh my gosh, my mom's calling me. I'm filming! Leave me alone! Okay, let's get this started, I guess. Hi guys, hey y'all. If we're being completely honest, this video was supposed to be filmed like earlier today at like 12 p.m., 1 p.m., but I'm here now. Hi, hello, welcome. Thank you for swinging by. Welcome back if you're not new, but I bid you a good evening if you are new. 2025 reading list. I have one. I'm going to share it with you. It's pretty long, pretty extensive. To give you kind of like a foreground as to, I guess, the purpose of this video, I used to be a reading kid. Like, I used to love reading. Didn't really have a choice but to do that. One might know, I guess, like if you grew up if you had the privilege of growing up African and being raised in an African family, reading was pretty much part of like your upbringing. Like, you had to do it by fire or by force. So I spent a lot of time at the library, especially when we moved to the house that we're in now. I would go to the library with my mom or like the other parent and we would, you know, kind of like go our separate ways. I'd go on the computers, indulge in my favorite YouTubers at the time. In addition to that, I would go around, pick some books that I was interested in, pick up 1 or 2 DVDs, go back home, and then that would kind of be it for like the week or two before we went back again. So I was pretty familiar with the library and I used to read a lot as a kid. As I got older, it just kind of like slowly went away. I think with pursuing, I guess, like higher education, obviously being assigned reading in high school and then like in college, I decided to major in communications. A lot of assigned reading, a lot of research, and a lot of writing. It's been about, I think, 2 or 3 years now. Well, technically 3 years since it's 2025. It's been 3 years now since I've gotten back into reading and I'm trying to make it part of my daily routine and like my ritual. A lot of these books I've pulled from different places, like either friends have mentioned it to me, I've seen them on the internet, like TikTok. I definitely do not know the synopsis of every single book on this list. If I said I did, I would be lying. I would be lying through my mouth. I would be definitely lying through my mouth. But if I come across a book that I obviously know of and I've been meaning to read and I know what it entails, then obviously I will go into detail and explain it. But also, you're watching this on your phone or probably your laptop. You can click the new tab thing, you know, right there on your laptop. And you can literally type in the name of the book and the author and a synopsis comes up. I don't want this to be a thing where like my lack of explanation makes you not want to read the book or like vice versa. All right, that was a very long intro. Let's get into it. Starting off with Women Like Us by Suzanne Neild. This, I think, is a collection of different stories from elder lesbians, just entailing their experiences being lesbians. I don't know exactly what decade or like timeline it follows, but I know I looked this up and I saw that it was on Letterboxd. I think there might be like a short film component that comes with this book. So if you're interested in that, awesome. I added it to my Letterboxd watch list. We'll be looking into that when I read this. Next is The African Gaze by emezi. I found this book through not a mutual of mine, but this creator that I follow. I try to like find her at and at her. This book dives into African cinema and photography, post-colonialism, and it basically follows kind of like the renaissance or boom within these two industries that occurred within the continent of Africa. The African Gaze is a comprehensive exploration of post-colonial and contemporary photography and cinema from Africa, drawing from archival imagery and documents interviews with Juanita, slow down. Interviews with the photographers and filmmakers, in some cases family members, close associates if the artist is deceased, and contributions from writers, scholars, and curators. It maps a comprehensive introduction to African moving and still imagery. The reason why I'm interested in this book is as I have finally come to terms with like wanting to be a filmmaker, I'm not like not necessarily ashamed of it, but I'm not silent and quiet about it anymore. I think it's really important for me to consume art outside of a continent that I was born and raised in. I think especially growing up now in the West, specifically in the US, you see it even online, like just the sensationalism around Western filmmakers and photographers, and there isn't really a lot of work from Black artists, specifically within the African continent, that's talked about. The ones I usually see are like from Senegal, so like Ousmane Sembe, I think, which obviously, duh, like great director, definitely understand the hype. Still, like I want to kind of like dig my nose into this and be able to like pull references and just kind of like understand. I'm blanking on a word again. understand the, I'm blanking on a word, understand the reasons as to why these filmmakers and photographers and just artists in general felt the need to create the art that they created. Next is Male Daughters, Female Husbands by Ife Amadiume. Also want to mention, low-key might be butchering some of these authors' names. I am so eternally sorry. I'm trying my best, especially with the African names. Like, guys, I got you. Like, I got you. But sometimes I do be fucking up. So this book specifically, Male Daughters, Female Husbands by Ife Amadioma, I found it through comment section of this video that I saw on TikTok. I think I'm just gonna play the TikTok.
About a year ago, my mom underwent a major surgery and I had to be her caretaker for about a month. When she got out of surgery, I was talking to the nurses. I was taking notes about what her medications were, how many times she needed to take them, what the names were, where to get it, all the aftercare procedures, just asking a lot of questions because I didn't want to miss a beat. And the nurses were spooning. Oh, I wish my son was this attentive and this caring. Wow, you're so lucky to have a son that's just so like thoughtful and thinks about all these things and blah, blah, blah. And I was laughing so hard on the inside and it took everything in me to not blurt out. That's because I'm a daughter, not a son.
So this video I just showed you is by a trans Nigerian, specifically Igbo creator. I'm not sure what their pronouns are, but I'm just going to use they, them because I don't want to like misgender them. But obviously they're entailing their experiences being brought up as a daughter in a African, specifically Nigerian, specifically Igbo household. I found this really interesting because I think throughout college I learned a lot about just like gender, sexuality, and kind of like everything under the umbrella of queer theory. But a lot of the perspectives, if not white or European, were specifically kind of like within the American or like Western lens. I have had a hard time really finding any sort of resources or just perspectives coming outside of specifically the West, specifically the African continent, trans identity, just like queer identity. So I thought this was really interesting. And honestly, this might not just be specifically an African thing. It might just be like an immigrant experience, just like being brought up in a very patriarchal household or patriarchal culture where I guess like daughters are like brought up to be very caring and attentive and kind of put the needs of, are you serious right now? Like always, my camera died, but as I was saying, growing up in a patriarchal household or culture that emphasizes bringing up your daughters to be caretakers, caregivers, putting the needs of others before themselves. I'm very interested in reading this. I love the title. I think honestly I might just like read you guys the synopsis of it because I feel like I should do that. Let's see. In 1987, more than a decade before the dawn of queer theory, Ife Amadiome wrote Male Daughters, Female Husbands to critical acclaim. This compelling, highly original book frees the subject position of husband from its affiliation with men and goes on to do the same for other masculine attributes, boldly arguing that the notion of gender, as constructed in Western feminist discourse, did not exist in Africa before the colonial imposition of dichotomous understanding of sexual difference. At a time when gender and queer theory are viewed by some as being stuck in identity politics rut, this outstanding study not only warns against the danger of projecting very specific Western notion of difference onto other cultures, but calls us to question the very concept of gender itself. I'm excited to read this. I will be going to my local library and be like, hey y'all, do y'all got this? Do y'all got this? If not, I need this book now. I'm putting in that request. Get me this book now. Next book is Real Life by Brandon Taylor. Search Sweet by Kojo Lang. I'm gonna stop at this one because, hey, Ghana. I've recently taken an interest into Ghana. Yeah, guys, I've recently taken an interest into looking into the Ghanaian reading curriculum. Search Sweet Country. One of the greatest novels ever to come out of the African continent. Oh, okay. Who's saying that? Who said that? Like, follows the lives of an eclectic, interconnected group of Ghanaians living in and around the sprawling, chaotic city of Accra. Chaotic? In the mid-1970s, Lying weaves a story filled with bizarre and often melancholy characters, an idealistic professor, a lovely young witch, a wide-eyed student, a corrupt politician and his hack sidekick, a business-savvy young woman, a healer, a bishop, and a crazy man intent on founding his own village. Their collective narratives create a portrait of a country where colonialism is dying, but democracy remains elusive. Search Sweet Country is a timeless, near-forgotten gem by a virtuistic... Guys. Is a near-forgotten gem by a virtuistic... Hey! Lines across brims with both lush specificity and universal relevance. Curve! Okay. Regretting Motherhood by Orna Donath. A mutual of mine on TikTok. I dearly miss my mutuals. This one specifically, I'll put her account on the screen. So if you want to like keep up with her on Instagram, she would discuss like I don't know, the things that she would bring up and talk about on her TikTok. I love it when women are smart. I love it when Black women are smart. I love it when Black women are introspective and want to question everything and break down things to the small little bitsy pieces. A lot of topics that she focused on her TikTok range from talking about gender, sexuality, sex itself, motherhood, and just kind of like things within those realms. This book specifically, she was asking why there aren't more pieces of media talking about mother-daughter relationships where daughters hate their mothers and the mothers like regret ever having children. And not gonna lie, I was like, because this is like my qualm. I talked about this with a friend of mine, but I feel like a lot of pieces of media that hone in on the on the mother-daughter relationship always end up kind of somewhat sanitizing it and not really going into the nitty-gritty, or even sometimes getting very nasty about the feelings that can come up and that whole like, you know, that whole thing. And I was like, yeah, like why doesn't that ever happen? Like even the book that I was reading in, I think Crying in H Mart, I stopped reading Crying in H Mart about 3 chapters in, because I think in chapter 3 the main character started talking about her relationship with her mother, and a lot of things that she was bringing up, to me, it was abuse. It was literally abuse. But the language that was being used felt like it was sanitizing it and almost kind of like passing it off as like, oh, this is just what XYZ parents are. Kind of like when, unfortunately, like kids of immigrant parents like tend to generalize. I do that a lot. I'm gonna call myself out. Tend to do that where they kind of like, oh, well, it's just African parents. You know how African parents are. Or, oh, you know how XYZ parents are. But aside from all of that, I personally just don't like it when kids who have faced abuse at the hands of their parents kind of try to water it down or try to sift through their experiences and find little moments where they can just be like, well, my parent loves me because they did XYZ. And it's like, no, like someone who loves you would not do the things they did to you. I don't know. I really don't know, but I thought she brought up like a good point about the lack of media that really hones in and focuses on people, specifically daughters, who genuinely just do not like their mothers because of their upbringing and the things that their mothers put them through, and vice versa, mothers detailing their experiences with motherhood and kind of basically regretting motherhood. Because let's be honest, when it comes to motherhood, I feel like it's literally pushed down the throats of women. You see it now on social media with the whole like triad wife content trying to paint this like picture of like motherhood being this like very virtuous, like peaceful looking thing that's like going to ground you, and it's a necessary experience in the lives of women. Me personally, I'm not interested, but yes, Regretting Motherhood by Orna Donath. It's on the top of my reading list because I really want to like dive into that more. So yeah. Next is We Need New Names by Juanita. Oh my gosh. We Need New Names, Noviolette Balawayo. Winter Love by Han Yoon. Tell It to the Bees by Fiona Shaw. All Men Want to Know by Nina Boronai. Sorry. Next, Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. Permafrost, Eva Baltasar. Notes of a Crocodile, Chi Myung-jin, I think. Let me see how to say that.
Chu Miaojin.
Notes of a Crocodile by Chu Miaojin. But a friend of mine actually, I think, got this book. We went to Brooklyn for a day trip one day, and we went to the McNally Jackson bookstore in Brooklyn, and we just kind of went our separate ways. Walking through the bookstore, I kind of gave them a little tour because I stayed in Brooklyn for like a summer, and that bookstore was my go-to. I love going to Seaport. I love Seaport. Seaport, I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm gonna give you a synopsis of it because unfortunately I do not remember what it was about. All I know is that it's gay. Notes of a Crocodile. Set in the post-martial law era of late 1980s Taipei, Notes of a Crocodile is a coming-of-age story of queer misfits discovering love, friendship, and artistic affinity while hardly studying at Taiwan's most prestigious university, told through the eyes of an anonymous lesbian narrator named Lazy, I think. This cult classic is a postmodern pastiche. Diaries, vignettes, mash notes, aphorisms, exegesis. Wow, I've never seen that word before. Whoa, exegesis? Hey guys, you're looking at me discover words in real time. That's crazy. Exegesis and satire by an incisive prose stylist and major counterculture figure. Afflicted by her fan... Oh, wow. I think I'm just gonna end it there, guys. The journalist and the murderer, Juliet Malcolm, Our Lady of the Highway, Hal Hartley, Bad Behavior, Mary Gaitsky, In the Time of Kiarostami, Godfrey Cheshire, Hour of the Star, Clarice Lispector, Near to the Wild Heart, Clarice Lispector, A Breath of Life, Clarice Lispector, Agua Viva. Oh my gosh, I want you to guess who's that's by. What? Say it with me. Clarice Lispector, hey! The Passion According to G.H. Clarice, wow, oh my gosh. Our Wives Under the Sea, Julia Armfelf. The Artificial Silk Girl, Imgard Kuhn. Carol, Patricia Highsmith. The New Me, Haley Butler. My Husband, Maud Ventura. When Breath Becomes Air, Paul Kalanithi. It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over, Anne de Marken. The Joy Luck Club, Amy Tan. Tennis Lessons, Susanna Dickey. Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal, Jeanette Winterson. Literate, Awaeke, Emezi. I actually got a book by this author over the summer. I can't remember specifically what book it was because, The Death of Vivek Oji is what the book was. I didn't get to read it because I literally loaned out, I think 4 books from my library and I only got to read 2 of them, so I had to return it. This author specifically is a Nigerian author, and I know they write a lot of books focusing on queer stories or just queer Nigerians. But I'm just going to give you the synopsis of this book. So the story follows Aima and Kalu, who are a long-time couple who have just split. When Kalu, reeling from the breakup, visits an exclusive sex party hosted by his friend Ahmed, he makes a decision that will plunge them all into chaos, brutally and suddenly upending their lives. Ola and Surya, 2 Nigerian sex workers visiting from Kuala Lumpur, collide into the scene just as everything goes to hell. Sucked into the city's corrupt and glittering underworld, they're all looking for a way out, fueled by a desperate need to escape the dangerous threat that looms over them. Hey, doesn't that sound good, guys? Doesn't that sound good? Sounds good to me. I don't know about you, but that sounds juicy. I think this has, what does it have on Goodreads? Oh, 3.6 out of 5 is low-key kind of low. I'm not gonna lie, but wow. Hey guys, fun fact. Fun fact again, I'm an immigrant. I can't say the word, the letter R. It really trumps me. Ooh. Let's not say that name. Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. The Door, Magda Sabo. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, Olga Tucker's. Hey! Stoner, John Williams. The Post Office Girl, Stefan Zweig. The Bluest Eye, Toni Morrison. You've probably heard that one. That's that girl. She's that girl. Whoa, let me talk. That is my elder. She is that lady. She is that woman. Tar Baby. I read Tar Baby by Toni Morrison. That was my first book. Getting into Toni Morrison. Love her work. Definitely excited to read more of hers. Goodbye Tsugumi by Banana Yoshimoto. Once again, I mentioned Banana Yoshimoto. First book I read by Banana Yoshimoto was Kitchen over the summer. Convenience Store Woman, Sayaka Mutata. The Guest Cat, Takashi Hiraide. The Premonition, Banana Yoshimoto again. Cecilia by K. Ming Chang. Lost Cat, Mary Gateskill. Sula, Toni Morrison again. Art on My Mind, Bell Hooks. I read All About Love by Bell Hooks. Who hasn't at this point? Actually, that's a lie. I read up until I think the 4th chapter. It took a while. It literally took me almost a year to get through that entire book, and then I started listening to it as an audiobook to get through this book. Not necessarily because I just didn't want to read it, but a lot of things that she was talking about and detailing in the book was kind of damn, oh, you're telling me that the little things my so-called loved ones and friends and family and whatever do is not actually love. Someone who actually loves you wouldn't do that shit to you. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. How dare you break my perception of love? How dare you show me that the love that I'm used to in my life is actually not love, and I'm just settling for what I know. That's so crazy. You're such a crazy girl. You're so crazy, Miss Hooks. You're so crazy. I think I'm definitely going to read that book again, like actually read it and not just listen to an audiobook, because I feel like I need to like sit down. Like what I was doing initially was, as I was reading, I was making notes. I was reflecting the relationships that I have in my life, both platonic and the very, very few romantic ones, and how they've gone, like the narratives that they've taken, the shapes that they've taken, the things that I've kind of like let slide by, the things that I've spoken out about, and also how just I personally treat people in my life and how I show them that I love them and care about them. Afropean by John Pitts. I found this book specifically, I think, through a TikTok. I'm not British, I'm not English, I didn't grow up in the UK, know absolutely nothing about the UK aside from the fact that like they colonized my people. I have some mutuals and some Black Brits that I follow, and over the summer I think there was a conversation that got brought up about Black British identity, and I thought that was something that was really interesting. I think unlike in the US where there's a very clear, distinct creation of Black culture, like, you know, like when you think of like Black Americans or just like Black culture within the US, you have an image in your mind. And not to say that Black people have not contributed anything to British culture specifically. Probably have. I just have a very little knowledge. Like, I have a lack of knowledge about that. But once again, like the US, you think about the history of the US, 400 years of unfortunately enslaved Africans coming to today. There are contributions within fashion, music, television, food, hair. But yeah, that's basically what the creator was talking about in the TikTok that I watched, kind of highlighting and trying to open the floor for a conversation about what Black British identity looks like, because I think it's still very much in its early stages, because most Black people in the UK or immigrants or like child of immigrants, either like first, second, or third gen. So kind of navigating what that looks like. So this book, I think someone in the comments, or maybe in the video even, mentioned this as something to read and to look into that. Next is Mutual Aid by Dean Spade. Asata by Asata Kabur. Parable of a Sower, Octavia E. Butler. Parable of the Talents, Octavia E. Butler. Simple Passion, Annie Ernaux. Mal Vertigo, Mako Kanai. Hurricane Season, Fernanda Melkor. Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. Written on Water, Eileen Chang. 3 Summers Ago, Margarita Liberaki. Morning Abreast, Shishi. The Summer Book, Tove Jansen. A Spell of Good Things, Ayobami Adebayo. Stay With Me, Ayobami Adebayo. Dead Girls, Selva Almada. Stay True, Hug Shu. Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. The Sisterhood by Courtney Thorson. Human Acts by Hong Kong. I'm currently reading The White Book by Hong Kong. The Invention of Morel Adolfo Bayo Casares. She Comes First, Ian Kerner. The African Trilogy, hey! The African Trilogy by Chinua Achebe. You've probably heard that name before. Tomorrow, Sex Will Be Good Again by Catherine Angel. The Right to Sex, Amya Srinivasan. Caliban and the Witch by Sylvia Federici. Who Cooked the Last Supper, Rosalind Miles. Hijabi Butch Blues by Lamia H. The Dialect of Sex by Shulamit Firestone. I found this one through a podcast that I listened to. I think it's called Overthink Podcast. I recently started listening to that podcast, and the final book on here is African Women and Feminism by Oyeronke Oyewumi. If you didn't catch on, honestly, most of the books at the end of this list have to do, like I mentioned at the start of this video, sexuality, gender, and kind of like feminism. I don't know, I've like recently piqued an interest in that specifically. I enjoyed filming this, aside from the mild interruptions from my camera and my other devices deciding to, you know, die on me. Hopefully you guys like this video. I'm really excited to read these throughout the year. Once again, like I mentioned, I definitely will not be getting through this entire list in 1 year, but I will try to see somehow, some way how I can update you guys on these if I read them. I don't have a Goodreads. I probably will not be getting a Goodreads. I personally just don't understand why there needs to be like an app for everything. If I want to talk about these books with someone, I can, I don't know, talk to my friends about it and make them read it. I personally just don't want to like make any more accounts and like keep track of any more passwords. If you guys are interested by any of the books that I mentioned in this video, let me know in the comments Tell me what books pique your interest, what books you're looking forward to reading, what books you've added to your list. Looking at my list and noticing a theme and a trend. If you have any books that you want to recommend me, great, do so. Please do so. Please, 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 please. Let's eradicate this anti-electoral intellect. Me trying. Wow, that's so funny. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Have a good night. Bye. I completely forgot. I forgot about the apple cider that I made.